They didn't just laugh at my accent, they turned my voice into a punchline. At my parents' country club party, my uncle leaned into the mic and said, "She sounds dumb," while the room clinked glasses. The chandelier light burned my face as I stood there, frozen, watching my father's tight smile and my mother's averted eyes. What none of them knew, I had receipts, a stage, and a sponsor slot with their names all over it. Tonight, I won't beg for respect, I'll bill for it. My name is Carly Bishop, and I've spent 34 years learning that some wounds cut deepest when they come wrapped in champagne toasts and country club smiles. The Fox Hollow Country Club sprawled across Ridgefield like a monument to old money, all mahogany panels and portraits of dead white men who'd never worked a day past 40. My parents had chosen it for their achievement showcase, what they called a family celebration dinner, but what everyone knew was really the Victor and Marianne Bishop Success Parade. Dad's promotion to senior partner at Parker & Vail, Mom's third term as hospital foundation chair, my sister Lila's PR coup at Wave & Flint, my brother Seth's record quarter at the investment firm, and me, I was the accent they couldn't quite explain away. "Carly, darling, you're up," Mom said, her manicured fingers barely grazing my shoulder. The microphone waited at the podium like a trap. I walked through that room of pearls and pinstripes, feeling the weight of their stares. These people had known me since I was 5, since Dad dragged us from Knoxville to Connecticut, since Mom started paying for those speech lessons that never quite took. "Thank you all for coming," I began, and there it was, that Tennessee honey dripping through my consonants, those mountain curves softening my vowels. "It means the world to have y'all here celebrating with us." The pause stretched. Someone's fork scraped porcelain. Heartline Dispatch just signed our biggest contract yet," I continued, watching Dad's jaw tighten at the mention of my company. "We're now the primary emergency dispatch service for 300 miles of interstate. When folks break down at 2 in the morning, when accidents happen in the rain, we're the voice that answers." That's when Uncle Hal stood up. My father's brother had the kind of laugh that came from 50 years of never being told no. He grabbed the wireless mic from the next table, his Yale class ring catching the light. "I gotta say something," he announced, bourbon making his words loose. "My niece here, God bless her, she's got this little emergency phone thing, and every time I hear about it—" He paused for effect, scanning the room. "She sounds dumb." The laughter rippled out from his table like a stone dropped in still water. Not everyone, but enough. Enough for me to catalog faces. Dad's business partner, Mom's foundation board, Lila's boss from Wave & Flint, trying to hide her smirk behind her wine glass. "That accent," Hal continued, "really warming up now. Can you imagine you're stuck on the highway, scared out of your mind, and you get some hillbilly dispatcher going, 'Hey, y'all need some help now.'" His exaggerated drawl was nothing like mine, but accuracy wasn't the point. The club's event photographer was still rolling, his camera's red light steady as a heartbeat. I kept my face neutral, professional, the way you do when someone's bleeding out on the line and you need them to stay calm. My phone was recording in my pocket. I'd started the app the moment I'd walked in, knowing my family the way I did. Mom stood then, her smile stretched tight as surgical sutures. "Harold, that's quite enough. Carly's business is doing wonderfully." But she didn't look at me when she said it, didn't correct his cruelty, just smoothed it over like wrinkles in tablecloth. "I'm just saying what everyone's thinking." Hal shrugged. "You can't run a serious business sounding like you just fell off the turnip truck." Dad finally spoke. "Let's move on to dessert." That was it. No defense, no pride. Just redirection. The Bishop family way. I set down the microphone with the kind of careful precision I used when talking someone through checking for a pulse, walked back to my seat through that minefield of sympathetic looks and barely suppressed grins. My brother Seth wouldn't meet my eyes. Lila was already typing on her phone, probably spinning this for her social media. The champagne in my glass had gone flat, but I raised it anyway. "To family," I said, loud enough for the camera to catch. What they didn't know, what they couldn't possibly know, was that I'd just been handed everything I needed. Uncle Hal's words, Dad's silence, Mom's deflection, all captured in high definition by the club's own recording equipment. They thought my voice was my weakness. They were about to learn it was my weapon. The first time I heard my own voice echo back at me, I was 7 years old, crouched in the corner of my daddy's tow truck garage in Knoxville. The CB radio crackled with calls broken down semis on I-40 families stranded in the summer heat. Daddy would answer each one, his voice steady as gospel. "We'll get you home safe." That voice could calm a crying child or talk a panicked mother through changing a tire. It was competence wrapped in warmth, authority without arrogance. It was Tennessee through and through. Then we moved to Connecticut. "You need to work on your pronunciation," Mom said, 3 weeks into our new life. She'd enrolled me in what she called elocution lessons, but what I knew was accent erasure. Mrs. Pemberton, a brittle woman who smelled like chalk and disappointment, would make me repeat phrases until my tongue forgot its home. "The rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain." Again, Carly, without the drawl. The rain in Spain. No, listen to the difference. Rain, not ray-un. 1 syllable. I was 12 when I gave my first real speech, valedictorian at middle school graduation. I'd practiced for weeks, ironing out every y'all, straightening every vowel until my voice sounded like someone else's. But when I stood at that podium, looking at 500 faces, the nerves brought Tennessee rushing back. We stand here today, and there it was. Today, stretched like taffy. Here, softened to something almost like here. Afterward, the principal's wife patted my shoulder. "Such a sweet speech, dear. You might want to consider broadcast training if you're thinking about public speaking, to help with the regional flavor." Regional flavor. Like I was a brand of barbecue sauce that didn't quite fit the menu. But here's what they never understood: that accent saved lives. After College University of Tennessee, because even Dad couldn't argue with in-state tuition, I worked highway dispatch. 3:12 a.m. to 8 a.m., talking to the scared, the stranded, the dying. My first week, a trucker jackknifed in black ice started hyperventilating on the line. "Sir, I need you to breathe with me," I said, and my voice did what it had always done. It went home. "You're gonna be just fine. Help's coming down the mountain right now." "You sound like my daughter," he gasped. "In Memphis." "Well, Memphis ain't far from where I grew up. Now, can you tell me if you can see your hazards blinking?" He lived. They usually did when they could focus on my voice instead of their fear. Ruth Delgado found me there, behind 3 computer screens and a cold cup of coffee at 415A. Mem. She owned Delta Road, a chain of independent garages, and she'd been listening to dispatch frequencies for years. "You ever think about running your own shop?" she asked. "I don't know anything about cars." "I'm not talking about cars. I'm talking about that voice, the way you handle crisis. People trust you the second you answer." That's how Heartline Dispatch was born, not in some Silicon Valley incubator or Manhattan high-rise, but in a rented office in Columbus with 3 phones and a business plan written on yellow legal pads. Ruth became my first investor, then my mentor, then something like the family I'd actually chosen. "Don't you dare change that voice," she told me during our first strategy meeting. "That's your authenticity. That's what makes people believe you'll get them home." But my real family, they had different ideas. "Have you considered a voice coach?" Mom asked when I told them about the company. "For the business calls, I mean, investors expect a certain Polish. It's called executive presence, Carly," Dad added, not looking up from his Wall Street Journal. "Your little app might do better with some refinement." Little app. Like I was playing store while the real adults did real business. "Actually," I said, letting every bit of Tennessee honey coat the words, "my little app just got featured in Transport Weekly. They called my dispatch style revolutionary in its humanity." Lila laughed. "They probably meant it as a novelty. You know, like those GPS systems with celebrity voices. That night, I sat in my apartment, playing back recordings of my dispatch calls. Each one was a life touched, a crisis managed, a fear calmed. My voice, my real voice, had guided hundreds of people through their worst moments. But to my family, it would always sound like failure dressed up in a drawl. They had no idea what was coming. The Columbus office wasn't much second floor above a print shop, windows that rattled when trucks passed, but it was mine. I'd painted the walls myself, a soft blue that reminded me of morning sky over the Smokies. The day we signed our first major contract, I set up champagne and grocery store cookies, sent the invitation to my whole family. First Enterprise Trucking Partnership. The email said, "Would love to celebrate with y'all at 4 p.m. this Saturday." Saturday came. 4 p.m. became 4:30, then 5. At 5:45, my phone buzzed. Dad. At Lila's promotion party. Couldn't miss it. We need to discuss the app. Call me. They'd chosen my sister's PR firm promotion over my first real victory. Of course they had. Ruth found me there at 7, still sitting in my empty conference room with warm champagne and untouched cookies. She didn't say anything, just pulled up a chair and poured 2 glasses. "They don't deserve to celebrate this," she said finally. "It's fine." "No, mija, it's not fine, but it's fuel." She was right about that. The sabotage started subtle. A month later, I was in final negotiations with Clearwater Ventures, a seed fund out of Chicago. The managing partner, David Kim, had loved our pitch. "The human element is what sets you apart," he'd said. "That personal touch in emergency response, it's revolutionary." Then, Tuesday morning, 3 days before we were supposed to close, the email came. "After further consideration, we have concerns about brand scalability and market perception. Specifically, the question of whether the voice-forward branding might limit national expansion." I read it 3 times before the words sank in. Voice-forward branding. They meant my accent. It took me 2 days of digging to find the source. A LinkedIn post from someone who'd attended an exclusive investors cocktail hour with Hal Bishop. The post was gone, but Google Cache never forgets. Hilarious story from Hal about his niece's startup says it sounds like emergency services meets hee-haw. Dead-on impression of the accent, too. My uncle had literally performed my failure for laughs, and it had cost me $600,000 in funding. But the knife twisted deeper when I saw Lila's Instagram story from that same event. Just a champagne glass and elegant script. Sometimes brand voice matters more than you think. PR wisdom, our startup life. My own sister, subtweeting my destruction. I started keeping a folder. Screenshots, emails, recordings, evidence. I labeled it, though I didn't know what I was building a case for yet. The pattern became clear over months. Every time I got close to something big, there'd be a whisper campaign, a casual mention at Dad's law firm dinners about his daughter's little regional project, Mom telling her foundation board about how Carly insists on keeping that quirky accent so stubborn, Seth joking to his finance buddies about my sister's redneck Uber for tow trucks. They smiled in my face and poisoned my well, all while claiming they just wanted what was best for me. The breaking point came with Morrison Group. 3 months of negotiations for a $2 million Series A. I'd flown to New York 4 times, refined our pitch deck until it sang, built financial projections that made their analysts weep with joy. The final meeting was on a Thursday. I wore my best suit, the one that cost more than my rent, and practiced my presentation until my throat was raw, but I didn't change my voice. Not one syllable. "This is impressive," Morrison's CEO said afterward. "Really impressive. We'll have terms to you by Monday." Monday came, then Tuesday. On Wednesday, an associate called. "I'm sorry, but the partners have decided to pass. There were some concerns raised about market messaging and brand consistency. Can you be more specific?" A pause. I probably shouldn't say this, but someone on the board got a call from a Victor Bishop. Said he was looking out for our interests, wanted us to know about some challenges with the founder's professional presentation. My father. My own father had called them. I drove straight to Columbus that night, hands shaking on the wheel. Not to confront him, I'd learned that got me nowhere. Instead, I went to my office and opened that evidence folder. Email after email, screenshot after screenshot, a pattern of calculated destruction, all because my voice didn't match their vision of success. I picked up my phone and called Ruth. "Remember when you said it was fuel?" I asked. "I do. I'm ready to burn something down." "Legal troubles aren't worth it, Mija." "Oh, I'm not talking about anything illegal. I'm talking about something much better. I'm going to tell the truth." "How?" I looked at the invitation that had arrived that morning, embossed cardstock for my parents' 40th anniversary party at Fox Hollow Country Club, the same room where Hal had called me dumb. The same stage where they'd all laughed. They're about to give me a microphone and an audience. What more could I need? The community center smelled like burnt coffee and diesel fuel. Ruth had dragged me here after 3 weeks of watching me stare at rejection emails, insisted I needed to remember who I was building this for. "These are your people," she said, gesturing to the room full of tow truck drivers, EMTs, and highway patrol officers. "Not those venture capital vultures." A man with grease-stained hands and kind eyes stood up first. "You're the Heartline lady, the one from the radio." "I am." "You talked my wife through a blowout on I-70 last month. Middle of the night, raining like hell. She was crying so hard she couldn't see straight. But your voice." He paused, swallowed hard. "You kept saying, 'Sugar. You're doing just fine. Help's 2 minutes away.' She still talks about how you made her feel safe." Another hand went up, a paramedic, still in uniform. "We've been monitoring your dispatches, the way you keep people calm. Get critical information without making them panic. We started using your techniques in our training." "What techniques?" "The way you mirror their breathing through the phone. How you slip medical questions into normal conversation so they don't realize they're being triaged. And that accent," she smiled. "It's like being talked through crisis by someone who actually gives a damn." For 2 hours, they shared stories. Lives saved, disasters prevented, families reunited, all because of the voice my family thought was worthless. "Why aren't you nationwide?" someone asked. I almost lied, almost gave them the venture capital spiel about market timing and strategic growth. But these people had trusted me with their worst moments. They deserved truth. Because investors think I sound too regional, too southern, too uneducated. The room went quiet. Then a highway patrol captain named Marcus stood up. "You know what, screw 'em. What if we make that the whole point? That night, we built a campaign on Ruth's kitchen table, the voices that keep you safe. Real dispatchers, real accents, real stories. Brooklyn crisis operators with their sharp consonants. Texas emergency responders with their long drawls. Minnesota coordinators with their musical vowels. All of us who'd been told we didn't sound professional enough." Maya Torres from the Columbus Dispatch got wind of it. She was hungry for a story that mattered, tired of covering suburban bake sales and corporate press releases. "You're telling me Silicon Valley passed on life-saving technology because of an accent," she said, recorder running. "I have the emails to prove it." Her piece ran on a Sunday. Front page of the business section, "The Sound of Safety, How Regional Bias Nearly Killed an Innovation." The story went viral by Monday afternoon. Voices, Save Life started trending. People shared their own stories of being dismissed, overlooked, underestimated because of how they sounded. Tuesday morning, my phone rang. River North Mutual Insurance, a company that insured most of the Midwest's trucking routes. "We've been looking for exactly this," their CEO said. "Our drivers trust voices like yours. They don't want some AI or call center script when they're jackknifed in a snowstorm. When can you start?" The contract was worth more than all the failed venture rounds combined. But more than that, it was validation from people who understood what really mattered. Ruth helped me film the announcement video. We didn't hire actors or rent a studio. Instead, we set up in the dispatch center at 3 a.m., capturing the real moments, tired voices guiding lost drivers home. Calm reassurance cutting through panic. Competence that had nothing to do with accent and everything to do with caring. Some folks think professional means sounding like you're from nowhere, I said to the camera. But when you're scared, hurt, or lost, you don't want nowhere. You want someone who sounds like they understand what home means. The video hit 1 million views in 3 days. Heartline's app downloads increased by 400%. We started getting calls from highway patrols in Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, all the places Silicon Valley ignored. But the sweetest moment came when a Fortune 500 CEO called. They wanted to invest, offered 3 times what Morrison Group had dangled. "We love your brand voice," he said. "It's so authentic." "This is the same voice I've always had." "Yes, but now it's a choice, a statement." I wanted to laugh. My voice was only valuable once it became a marketing angle, a rebellion they could monetize. But Ruth had taught me to be strategic. "I appreciate the offer," I said, laying the Tennessee on thick as molasses. "But we're partnering with folks who believed in us before we were trending." That night, I looked at the anniversary invitation again. Fox Hollow Country Club, black tie required, RSVP by Friday. I RSVP'd yes, then made another call. "Fox Hollow Events Department. This is Carly Bishop. I'd like to discuss corporate sponsorship for my parents' anniversary party. Specifically, the safety and security package." The Fox Hollow Events coordinator sounded like she'd been waiting for someone to spend money all day. "The safety sponsorship package is quite comprehensive," she chirped. "Full medical team on standby, emergency vehicle access, and—" "I want to add something," I interrupted. "A 90-second public safety presentation. Before the anniversary toast." "That's unusual." "I'll pay double the sponsorship fee." Silence, then rapid keyboard clicking. "I'll need to run this by the board, but with that generous contribution, when would you need confirmation?" "Today." 3 hours later, I had a contract. Heartline Dispatch Official Safety Partner of the Bishop Anniversary Celebration. The agreement included 1 multimedia safety presentation, not to exceed 90 seconds, to be displayed on the main ballroom screens. Ruth thought I'd lost my mind when I told her the price tag. "That's 3 months of operating costs," she said. "It's justice. You can't put a price on that." My legal advisor, Catherine, was more practical. "If you're doing what I think you're doing, we need to be bulletproof. No defamation, no privacy violations, nothing actionable. I'm only using publicly available footage and audio recorded at public events. The club's footage is property of the event, which I'm now sponsoring. I have full access rights." Catherine smiled like a shark. "Show me what you're planning." The video took 2 weeks to perfect. Every frame had to be both devastating and legally unassailable. It opened with real dispatch calls used with permission, faces blurred, voices clear. My voice, guiding a mother through CPR on her baby. "That's it. Sugar, you're doing perfect. 5 more compressions." The baby's cry when he started breathing again. Cut to faces of people we'd helped. The trucker from the jackknife. The teenager whose car broke down at 2A, Mom. The elderly couple lost in a storm. All saying variations of the same thing. That voice saved my life. Then, at the 40-second mark, the pivot. Audio from the last family party. Uncle Hal's voice crystal clear through the club's own recording system. She sounds dumb. The laughter rippling after. The timestamp visible in the corner. Cut to the email from Clearwater Ventures. Key phrases highlighted concerns about voice-forward branding. Then, Morrison Group, challenges with professional presentation. Back to rescue footage. A state trooper at an accident scene. Heartline Dispatch saved 3 lives today with rapid professional response. The climax was simple, a split screen. On the left, the contracts we'd lost $2.6 million in dead deals. On the right, the lives we'd saved anyway, 437 emergency calls successfully resolved. The final 20 seconds was pure triumph. The River North contract signing, the Highway Patrol partnership announcement, The governor shaking my hand at the Public Safety Innovation Award ceremony footage from just last week that my family didn't even know about. The last frame, Heartline Dispatch the Voice You Trust. Sponsored by people who understand that competence doesn't have an accent. Maya agreed to have her follow-up article ready to publish at exactly 8:30 p.m. the night of the party. Local CEO transforms family rejection into public safety revolution. Ruth handled the technical side. The club's AV system is ancient but reliable. Once it starts playing, it can't be stopped without cutting power to the whole ballroom. And the backup. Every major news outlet in Connecticut will have a copy queued. If they try to suppress it, it becomes a bigger story. Catherine reviewed everything one more time. "This is brutal," she said, "and completely legal." 3 days before the party, Dad sent an email. "Carly, your mother and I have been discussing your company's future. We've arranged a meeting with Hampton Media Group. They're prepared to acquire Heartline for a generous sum. In exchange, they'll provide professional voice talent and proper brand management. This is what's best for everyone. We'll discuss at the anniversary dinner." Attached was a draft contract. The purchase price was insulting. The terms included replacing all dispatch staff with broadcast-trained professionals. They wanted to buy my company and fire everyone who sounded like me. I forwarded it to Catherine. Add this to the video. That might be seen as what, showing a contract they sent me, an offer they made. She grinned. "I'll add it to frame 62, right after the failed funding rounds." The night before the party, I couldn't sleep. I stood in my Columbus apartment, looking at the wall of thank you cards from people we'd helped. A child's drawing of a dispatcher as a superhero. A wedding photo from a couple who'd met when she helped him through a breakdown, emotional and mechanical. These people trusted my voice when everything was falling apart. Tomorrow, I'd trust it to tell the truth. The morning of the party. Dad called at 7 a.m. "The Hampton deal is generous," he said without preamble. "More than your little company is worth." "My little company just signed a statewide contract with Ohio Highway Patrol." A pause. "That's not confirmed. Check your email." I'd sent him the press release, embargoed until 8 p.m. tonight. The subject line, "Since you're so interested in my business." "Carly, you're being childish. This rebellion has gone on long enough." Rebellion. I laughed and heard Tennessee creep into it. "Daddy, I'm 34 years old. I run a company that saves lives. The only rebellion here is me refusing to let y'all destroy what I built. Your accent is destroying it for you. My accent built it. My accent is why people trust us. My accent is an embarrassment." His voice turned cold. "Hampton's offer expires tonight. After that, we're done trying to help you." "Help?" The word came out sharp as winter wind. Like when Uncle Hal helped by telling investors I sound like hee-haw. Like when you helped by calling Morrison Group. Silence. "Yeah, I know about that. I was protecting their investment from a founder who refuses to be professional." Professional. There's that word again. I pulled up the contract he'd sent. "Tell me, what's professional about trying to steal a company for 1/10 of its value? It's not stealing when it's family." Family. I let that word sit between us like a loaded gun. "I'll see you tonight." "Dad." I hung up before he could respond. Lila texted an hour later. "Heard you're being difficult about Hampton. My boss knows their CEO. Don't embarrass us tonight." Seth called around noon. "Just take the deal. Carly, you're making this harder than it needs to be." Mom sent an email with a link to a speech therapist in Columbus. "For after tonight, dear, Hampton will expect changes." They were circling like vultures. So sure I'd break. I drove to Ruth's office, where she had the technical equipment ready. We did one final run-through of the video on her laptop. Every transition was perfect. Every audio clip was clear. "You can still back out," she said. "Take their money. Build something new." With what voice, the one they've been trying to erase since I was 7? She squeezed my shoulder. "Then let's burn it down. Mija." Catherine called at 3 p.m. "I've had 3 lawyers review this. You're clear. Also, I may have accidentally sent the video to a few journalist friends. Embargo until 8:30. Of course. Accidentally. My finger slipped 5 times. Maya texted at 4. Article locked and loaded. This is Pulitzer material. Your uncle's going to wish he'd kept his mouth shut. I put on my dress black. Elegant. Expensive. The kind of thing Marianne Bishop's daughter would wear. But I paired it with my grandmother's pearl necklace. The one from Tennessee. The one Mom always said was too country for nice events. At 6 p.m., I stood in front of my bathroom mirror, practicing my speech one last time. Not the one they expected the gracious daughter thanking her parents for their success. The real one. This is my voice, I said to my reflection. It's saved 437 lives this year. It's built a company worth $18 million. It's the voice you mocked, sabotaged, and tried to silence. My hands weren't shaking anymore. The drive to Fox Hollow took 40 minutes. I used the time to call my dispatcher team, all working tonight's emergency shift. Whatever happens, I told them, y'all are the reason this company exists. Your voices, your compassion, your competence. Don't let anyone tell you different. You okay, boss? Asked Marcus, my lead dispatcher. You sound like you're going to war. Something like that. Need backup. I smiled. Already got it. Ruth's running technical, Maya's on media, Catherine's on legal, and at 8:25 p.m., Highway Patrol's making an announcement that might interest you. What kind of announcement? The kind that proves voices like ours are worth something. I pulled into Fox Hollow at 7:15. The valet was the same kid who'd parked my car at every family event for 5 years. Evening, Miss Bishop. Your parents are already inside. Perfect. I handed him the keys and a $100 bill. You might want to be in the ballroom at 8 p.m. The safety presentation's going to be memorable. He looked confused but pocketed the tip. I walked through those heavy doors, past the portraits of old white men, toward the ballroom where my family waited. My phone buzzed with a final text from Ruth. Video locked in the system. T-minus 60 minutes. Time to show them what my voice could do. The ballroom glowed like honey in a jar. All warm lights and golden reflections off champagne flutes. 200 of Connecticut's finest had gathered to celebrate Victor and Marianne Bishop's 40 years of marriage. 40 years of climbing ladders and pulling them up behind them. Mom spotted me first, gliding over in her St. John suit. Darling, you look lovely. Did you consider the Hampton offer? We'll talk after the speeches. Her smile tightened. We'll talk now. Mr. Hampton is here tonight? Of course he was. They'd turned their anniversary into an ambush. The band stopped playing at 8 p.m. sharp. The MC, a friend of Dad's from the club, tapped the microphone. Before we continue with tonight's celebration, we have a brief safety presentation from tonight's security sponsor, Heartline Dispatch. Dad's head snapped toward me. I hadn't told them about the sponsorship. The lights dimmed. The screen descended. My voice filled the room. Not speaking, just breathing at first. Then, 911. What's your emergency? On screen, a dark highway, rain streaming down a windshield. A young voice, terrified. My car died. I'm alone. There's a truck that keeps circling back. My voice, steady as stone. I've got you, sugar. Door's locked. Good. Help's 3 minutes out. Stay with me. The room was silent. Someone set down a glass too hard, the clink sharp as breaking bone. More calls followed in rapid succession. Real terror, real relief. A mother screaming about her unconscious child. My voice walking her through CPR, counting compressions like a lullaby. An elderly man lost in a snowstorm, his words slurring from hypothermia. Me keeping him talking, conscious, alive. Then the music stopped. The screen showed the Fox Hollow Country Club. This very room, 6 months ago. Uncle Hal's bourbon-thick voice boomed through the speakers. She sounds dumb. The laughter that followed seemed to echo forever. The camera had caught it all. Dad's tight smile. Mom looking away. Lila typing on her phone. The screen split. On one side, The rejection emails, Clearwater Ventures, Morrison Group, concerns about voice-forward branding, challenges with professional presentation. On the other side, the lives saved, the contracts won, the Highway Patrol partnership. Then, something I'd added just this morning, the Hampton Media contract Dad had sent. Key terms highlighted complete replacement of current dispatch staff, professional voice talent only. Acquisition price $1.8 million. A gasp ran through the room. Everyone here knew Heartline's real value. They read the business pages. The final sequence was pure triumph. The governor at last week's ceremony. Heartline Dispatch represents the best of Ohio innovation. The Highway Patrol chief. This partnership will save lives across our state. The River North CEO. We trust Heartline because they're authentic. The last frame held for 10 seconds. Heartline Dispatch currently valued at $18 million, built with the voice you said sounded dumb. The screen went black. The lights came up slow. I was already at the microphone. That was my sponsor presentation, I said, my accent thick as molasses, deliberately pronounced. Heartline Dispatch is proud to ensure the safety of tonight's event. Uncle Hal was red from his collar to his hairline. Dad stood frozen by the head table. Mom had her hand over her mouth. I want to thank my family, I continued, looking directly at them. You taught me that respect isn't given, it's earned, so I earned it. Without you, despite you. Someone started clapping. One person, then 3, then a dozen. Not everyone, some looked horrified, but enough. I saw Maya in the back, phone recording. The club's photographer was shooting rapid fire, probably in shock, but too professional to stop. Carly. Dad started toward the stage. I'm not finished. My voice carried without shouting, the way I'd learned to project calm through phone static and panic. In exactly, I checked my watch, 4 minutes. The Highway Patrol will announce that Heartline Dispatch is now the exclusive emergency service provider for the entire state. That little app with the embarrassing accent will be the voice people hear in their worst moments. The voice that saves them. The room erupted. Phones came out as people checked the news. Someone said, "Holy shit," loud enough for everyone to hear. Mr. Hampton pushed through the crowd. The offer's withdrawn. Good. I smiled, sweet as tea. It was insulting anyway. Uncle Hal stumbled toward the mic, but the MC, who'd been watching everything with calculating eyes, stepped in his way. I think we should move on to the anniversary toast. Wait, I said. The room stilled again. I do want to make a toast. I raised my champagne glass. To Victor and Marianne Bishop, you gave me life, education, and endless reasons to prove you wrong. Because of you, I learned that my voice, my real voice, has power you never imagined. Every life it saves, every contract it wins, every person it comforts is proof that you were wrong about what matters. I downed the champagne in one swallow, set the glass on the podium, and walked off the stage. The Highway Patrol captain was waiting by the door, in full uniform. He'd timed it perfectly. Ms. Bishop, we wanted to thank you personally for your service to Ohio. He shook my hand as 3 news photographers captured the moment. Tomorrow's headlines were writing themselves. Behind us, the party imploded. I could hear Hal shouting, Mom crying, Dad trying to restore order. The MC announced the band would resume playing, but nobody was dancing. I didn't look back. The captain's handshake was firm, his words carrying over the ballroom's chaos. Your dispatch saved 2 of my troopers last month. They went home to their families because of your voice. Behind us, camera phones lit up like fireflies. Maya had moved closer, her recorder visible. The club's photographer captured every angle, the captain's respect, my steady posture, and in the background, my family's world unraveling. Carly. Dad's voice cut through the noise, but the captain stepped between us. Ms. Bishop has a scheduled interview with Channel 6, he said smoothly. A lie, but a kind one. We walked out together, past the portraits of dead white men, through the heavy oak doors, into the Connecticut night that suddenly felt like freedom. My phone exploded before I reached my car. Lila. How could you? Seth, you've destroyed everything. Mom, we need to talk. I deleted them all. Maya appeared at my elbow, grinning like she'd won the lottery. The article's live. 3,000 shares in 5 minutes. The video's already viral. Good. Don't you want to know what people are saying? I know what matters. 437 people made it home safe because someone with an accent answered their call. She studied me. You're not going back in there. No, I made my point. What about your family? I looked back at Fox Hollow, its windows glowing with old money and older prejudices. They made their choice every time they laughed at my voice. Tonight, I just showed them the bill. Ruth called as I drove away. The governor wants to meet Monday. 3 other states are asking about contracts, and someone leaked the Hampton offer Twitter's having a field day with the lowball price. Let them. You sound calm. I am. And I was. For the first time in 34 years, I wasn't carrying the weight of their disappointment. My voice saved lives today. Ruth, it'll save more tomorrow. That's all that matters. The next morning, Dad left one voicemail. The family is prepared to move forward without you. I saved it, not out of sentiment, but as evidence. Proof that sometimes the family you're born into isn't the one that deserves you. Monday's meeting with the governor went perfect. She mentioned the Fox Hollow video, said it took courage to stand up like that. I told her courage was answering emergency calls at 3 a.m., keeping someone alive with just your voice and wisdom. What I did was just business. Heartline expanded to 5 states within a year. We hired dispatchers with every accent America could offer: Brooklyn urgent, Minnesota mild, Texas drawl, California casual. The only requirement was competence and compassion. Nobody ever asked about degrees or diction. Uncle Hal retired early from his firm. Something about client concerns regarding his judgment. Lila's boss at Wave & Flint suggested she might be happier at a company that aligned with her values, which was corporate speak for, "You're connected to a PR nightmare." Seth kept his job, but stopped mentioning his family at work. Mom sent a card on my birthday. Inside, her perfect penmanship. "We're proud of what you've accomplished." No signature from Dad. I didn't respond. Some bridges are meant to stay burned. 3 years later, Heartline went national. The announcement ceremony was held in Knoxville, at the old truck stop where Daddy used to work. Ruth stood beside me as I took the podium. "Every voice you hear on our lines," I said, letting Tennessee wrap around every word, "is someone who understands that in your darkest moment. You don't need perfect pronunciation. You need someone who gives a damn." The crowd truckers, paramedics, small-town folks who'd never set foot in a country club erupted in applause. That night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was a screenshot from Fox Hollow's website. They'd quietly removed the video from their anniversary event archives, as if erasing the evidence could undo the damage. I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in months. They still didn't understand. The internet never forgets. Neither do the people you save. And a voice, once it finds its power, can't be silenced. My name is Carly Bishop. I have an accent. It sounds like home to people who need help, like competence to those who matter, and like success to anyone who understands that different doesn't mean less. And if that sounds dumb to you, well, bless your heart, you're not my emergency anyway. Thank you so much for listening to this story. I'd love to know where you're tuning in from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts. Your own experiences with finding your voice, standing up to family, or overcoming prejudice. I want to hear them all. Remember, sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply succeeding as exactly who you are.